Hey guys, welcome to another video. And in this video, I want to talk about how important it is that we hate sin the same way that we hate losing. I saw this video, this sermon by Pastor Phillip Anthony Mitchell, and he's amazing. He's one of those pastors who I really enjoy watching his videos because they're so engaging, and he does a great job of just giving you the truth and the unfiltered truth. But the way that he's able to just be so captivating and to make it one of those things where you really just want to learn, you want to become closer with Christ. You want to be the best disciple that you can be. I love his videos for that. And the 2819 church, I feel like, is doing incredible things. And I just feel like they're blessed, to accomplish the level of, impact that they're having and that they have. And so in this video, he talks about how in a lot of churches, a lot of the time, we hear about how important it is to love everybody, love your neighbor, love, all of these things. But he talks about how the church doesn't talk enough about how important it is to hate sin. Because as Christians, I think we tend to be so lovey-dovey, kind of love everyone, love everything, even the things that we don't love. We just kind of don't really like it, but we don't really say the H word. We don't hate anything. But he talks about just how important it is to hate sin, because he talks about how so many things that we do, so many things about who we are as people really comes down to sin. But because we don't hate it, because we don't pray about it, we don't pray about taking that sin away from us, we just kind of become comfortable with it. And it's one of those things where I was thinking about it, and it's almost like sin is like that toxic relationship that you've been in for 3, 4, 5 years. And even though you know it's not good for you, you're like, oh, well, but I've been with this person for 3 or 4 years now. We've had good times. We've had a lot of bad times, but we've had some good times. So, I don't know. It's so familiar and I'm comfortable and I'm used to it. And if I'm single again, I'll be alone and all of these things. But because we think about sin that way, we just become comfortable with it. We get to the point where, yeah, every now and then we might pray, we might ask for forgiveness for the sins that, we've committed. But for the most part, we kind of just look at it like it is what it is. It's almost like we look at sin as though we're in a game against it and we're down by 40 points and there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And we're just like, oh, well, it is what it is. May as well throw in the towel. May as well not try to do anything. May as well just stop playing. May as well forfeit at this point. And that's exactly what the devil wants. The devil wants us to forfeit. The devil wants us to just accept that sin is a way of life and that there's nothing we can do about it. And there's no point in trying to better ourselves because sin is just inevitable. And while in the game of life, of course, that can be true to a certain extent, but at the same time, losing is inevitable as well. I don't care whether you're, how good at sports you are, you're going to lose at some point. Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. And as much as it annoyed me when he played because of, all the Super Bowls and all of that, even he lost sometimes. He lost some Super Bowls. He won some, but he lost some. And even if in one area of a person's life they're winning and things are great, they've probably suffered losses in other parts of their life. Whether that means you're in school and you have straight A's and you've had straight A's all your life, there's going to be a time where maybe on a test or on a paper, maybe you got a B, maybe you got a C. Even if you ended with, an A in the class, if you got straight A's the whole time you were in school, there was some point in time that you got a B or you got a C on something. And ultimately, that person, it's like they probably hated that low grade so much that they bettered themselves and it never happened, never happened again, or it happened very rarely. And the problem is, until we approach sin with that same sort of aggression, that same sort of vitriol, that same sense of urgency in terms of getting rid of it, praying about it, and freeing those thoughts from our heart, until we approach sin with that kind of mindset, it's hard to really to think that we can get any better, because we've just kind of said, well, there's nothing we can do. I mean, it happens, it is what it is. And he said something else that was so true. He said, when you hate sin, you'll treat your spouse different or your significant other different, which is very true, because when we hate sin, when we hate these thoughts of lust, when we hate pornography, when we hate these things, it gives us the power and the tools to fight against them, to rebel against them. The problem is when we get too comfortable with watching movies that have sex scenes, with listening to music that has negative messaging, that has very degrading messages towards women. When we get comfortable with these things, we allow these thoughts to fester and to kind of just feed in our minds and feed in our hearts. And so we tend to operate with a lustful mindset, because that's what we listen to. That's what we've surrounded ourselves with. And even with me, when I was single, when I was, I still, I'm struggling with pornography, and I've been praying that God delivered me from that. And I've been working diligently to free that, the thoughts from my mind of, wanting to watch pornography, wanting to, engage in that act, because I know that at the end of the day, that is sin. And anything that's pulling me towards that or leading me towards that, I know is sin. And so I'm super grateful, because I feel like watching that video, it even gave me more ammunition, or more of a reason to fight against that urge. Because at the end of the day, when you look at something like pornography as sinful, and you begin to form a strong hatred for it, it makes it much easier to resist that urge, to resist that temptation. And the problem is, for too long, what I came to realize, I had this mindset of, well, I mean, it is what it is. If, watching pornography, you're not hurting anybody, you're not doing anything to anybody yourself, and, you're relieving stress, whatever the case may be. Trying to justify sin is from the devil. And what I didn't realize was, for a very long time, I was justifying it in my mind of like, oh no, like, it's not so bad because I'm not physically doing anything to harm anybody or to put anybody in harm's way. But ultimately, learning that that is still a sinful act, and I should hate that, and I should have empathy, but I should hate the fact that people engage in that kind of thing and post that kind of thing on the internet. Having that kind of like those strong emotions towards it help make it easier to not engage in things like that, but also at the same time have empathy for people who do, things like that, and to pray for them that one day they might repent for what they're doing, that they might find Jesus. And even when I was single, I remember, I would go on dates and, do these things with women, and I would justify it in my mind by saying, oh, well, I'm trying to build my self-confidence. I'm going on, 4 dates a week because that'll help with my confidence. And what I didn't realize was, in that time, I was using these excuses to give myself a way out for, doing the things I was doing, for leading girls on, for being lustful, and for not always looking for a relationship, but for just looking for a woman to give me attention, for just looking for a woman to spend time with. And when I realized this, I realized, my head wasn't in the right space at that time. But because I was finding so many reasons to justify it, I never really addressed it at the time, or I never addressed it as early as I should have. If I would have just said, wait, what is the purpose for me trying to go on 4 dates a week, 5 dates a week? Why do I feel like I'm unattractive if it's a Saturday night and I'm not hanging out with a girl? If it's a Saturday night and I'm not going on a date with a girl? What is it about those things that makes me feel less than? And what is that sin in my heart that's making me feel as though I need external validation from women to feel better about myself? And if I would have realized those things, and if I would have nipped that in the bud and said, okay, I know that I was made in God's image, and whether or not another girl finds me attractive or wants to be in a relationship with me doesn't change the fact that I was still made in God's image. And so that's why I just have so much empathy, and I pray a lot for people who are in that phase of life, because I was once in that phase of life. I was once that kind of person who didn't have any intentions of getting in a relationship because A, I didn't think any woman wanted to be in a relationship with me, and B, I wanted to avoid rejection. So I found it easier to go on multiple dates with women, where if things fell through with one woman, I had other women to go on dates with. And I was afraid to put myself in a position and to put myself out there with a woman to the point where I felt like she could hurt me. And then all of a sudden I would have nothing to fall back on. And so these are all just ways that sin can enter our lives. And the reason that it's so important that we hate sin the way that we hate losing is because even as fans, it's one of those things where we might watch our favorite team lose and we might be so upset that, we might not talk to anybody for 15, 20 minutes or whatever the case may be, because we are so wrapped up in the external world and, what has happened with our team that we watch or the team that we play on or whatever, that we get so frustrated. And the thing is, if we got that frustrated about the way that we sin and the way that the devil causes us to sin, and we prayed as much as we got frustrated, then our sin would just diminish greatly. And we would no longer feel the urge to watch porn or to be lustful, because every time we'd feel those emotions, we get so bothered that we would pray to God and we would pray those thoughts and those emotions out of us to the point where we're no longer being disturbed by these thoughts and these negative things that we shouldn't be engaging in. And so Phillip Anthony Mitchell said this thing that was so real. He said, another problem, with the way that we tend to think, he said, we tend to trust celebrities we tend to trust celebrities more than we trust God. And when he said that, I was like, it's so crazy how we're so quick to turn our back on a celebrity. We're so quick to cancel a celebrity. But how come we're not just as quick, if not quicker or faster, to cancel our sin? To look at our sin and go, no, you're canceled. That feeling to watch porn, canceled. But instead, because a celebrity says something we didn't like or does something that we didn't like, we suddenly feel that we have whatever it takes or whatever the case may be. We feel like we can judge that celebrity because we feel like, okay, that celebrity, is bad because of this or because of that. And so we're just so much faster to judge other people, to the point where we don't look at ourselves. And so we get so focused on what other celebrities or what other people are doing that we don't get the chance to really look inside, to look within ourselves much, and to realize, okay, where am I going wrong? What thoughts am I having that aren't good thoughts? Like for me, sometimes, one thing I'm really trying to be aware of is this stress of money. Sometimes I think it can get so easy to get caught up in trying to make as much money as we can and just being focused on money and not being focused enough on helping people and not focusing enough on being of service to people. And so whenever I start to have those thoughts about just trying to just make money and not focusing as much on trying to help people, I quickly realize that and I pray about it, because I understand that those thoughts and those desires aren't godly desires. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money, but at the same time, when you want to make money and you're not as interested, if not more interested in helping people, that's where the problem comes. And that's where there's that discrepancy of, okay, you want this, but you don't want that. And in the Bible, it talks about how you can't serve money and God is your two gods. You can only serve God. And that's why these videos for me are so important to make, because whether they blow up or whether my channel gets monetized isn't the point. It's about me making these videos so that hopefully by talking openly about things that I'm struggling with or things that I have struggled with, my hope is that it'll be able to help someone else who's also struggling, just so that way we can all move closer to Christ together and we can all just become the children of God, that God wants us to be. And so, yeah, you guys, that sums up this video. I just wanted to talk real quick to you guys about just the importance of hating sin the way that you hate losing. And that sermon by Pastor Phillip Anthony Mitchell is super good. And hopefully, if I remember, I'll try to link it in the comments, or in the description. And so I just think it's super important to watch that sermon and to apply that really to your life, because I'm going to really try to remember that sermon. I'm really going to try to meditate on that. And I'm really going to make sure that that's a point for me moving forward, because I've just never really heard a sermon like that where someone attacks sin so aggressively. And so I think that's what's so refreshing about Pastor Phillip Anthony Mitchell, is the way that he preaches, where he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He just kind of tells you the way it is. And so if you guys stayed along though for this entire video, I really appreciate you guys. If you want to see more content like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And also let me know what you guys think, in the comments below. Let me know if you guys have seen the sermon, what you guys thought about it, what you guys think about Pastor Phillip Anthony Mitchell's style, because I know his style isn't for everybody, but just like how there's not one pastor that's, good for everybody. Everyone has, what they like in a pastor. But yeah, guys, feel free to let me know in the comments below. And I'll talk to all of you guys in the next video.